How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, welcome to another episode of Headcases. And today I'm really excited about this guest because she's really traveled the world as a hairdresser and is probably one of the most well-known influencers that I know. Her mission with Hair Love University is to elevate and amplify the impact that artists, salon owners, and educators have on the world. Through Hair Love University, hint, hint on who this might be, she's a trauma-informed business and life coach, breathwork specialist, and a podcast host. Her event, Hair Love Retreat, another hint, 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 is a global affair. Her coaching helps salon owners and educators run their business like a business. What a concept. This one really impressed me as well because this one would scare the hell out of me. But I'll tell you, she's spoken on TEDx before, which means, and I think that qualifies her right off the start. She starred in her own documentary, Hairstylists Change the World. So let's get into this week's head case, Elizabeth Faye. Elizabeth Faye, my love, it has been, I was thinking about this the other day. They always talk about the 6 degrees of separation. Well, and I can't even say you and I have 1 degree of separation because we've worked for a manufacturer together on stages. But yet, it was always that little bit of separate. And I've never got a quality sit down time with you. So that's why I want to have you on here. And we talked about this a tiny bit before. But for all the people that are watching and listening right now, I just want them to know that I watched Hairstylists Change the World. And if you have not seen her documentary yet, you have to go on to it. For anybody who's watching, because if you're not a hairdresser, you need to watch it. And if you're a hairdresser, you particularly need to watch it. So, Elizabeth, welcome to Headcases.
Hi, I know. I'm so excited to talk. We're always like in a space together and like, hey, see you later. Okay, we should talk. Know about what the other person's up to. But we really haven't had a chance to sit down for more than maybe 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and you know what, Elizabeth, what I've learned is that it's obviously not possible, but I just said, if you ever want to know somebody and get truly to know the person, everybody should do a documentary. I know the documentary wasn't solely on you, but you shared a lot in there, and I was truly impressed, and I think it does our industry the world of good, and I think you and I have that common bond where we really want to help our industry grow and get it seen as something that's equal to, and maybe surpasses some of the other ones as well. But listen. On there, I love you. I always try to find out where people got. How the hell did you get into hair? And I watch it. I do know it, but I want other people to know. How'd you get into hair?
Yeah. So I've told this story so many times, and it's still a story that makes me emotional almost every single time. It means so much for me, and I really feel like my story is the story of so many other people, the story of our clients, of so many other hairdressers who've walked a similar path to me, and they can see themselves in some way. And it's a big part of my mission. So I always share that I believe that hairstylists change the world. And I know that because a hairstylist changed my world. And I grew up in Las Vegas, and I was a really troubled kid. I got into a lot of trouble, everything from running away to drugs to self-harm, and just trying to figure myself out, trying to figure out where I was supposed to fit in the world and how I was supposed to be in the world. And in those attempts, I got in so much trouble, I got sent away. So I kept getting sent away to different schools, different families. And one of the schools I was sent away to, I hated so much that I had to be kicked out of. I just fucking hated it there. And I stole box color to make my hair like a scene kid, like, the colors that I could add in and cut it myself. And I wanted it to be distracting enough that the private school I was at would kick me out. And I I got it. I showed up. I knew where I was headed that day. I was headed to the principal's office and to be expelled. And that's my mission was that. And that's where I ended. And I ended up waiting for my parents to pick me up that day. And when I was sitting on the curb waiting for my parents, there was this woman who was, picking up her kids, and she was leaving, and she stopped and looked at me, and she handed me a business card for a hairdresser. And she's like, "You need to call him." And, we're all hairdressers, so I can say this. This was for the Robert Croming Salon in Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas. This wasn't just any hair salon.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this. I'm a 12-year-old kid who's not in the hair industry. And, I'm a kid. If you have been in my work at all, my dad's a big part of our retreats. He leads the hikes. He leads the yoga. My dad is the definition of a mountain man. He's very down to earth. He grew up blue collar. He worked for the water district. So he fixed things in the street. He led hikes on the weekends for extra cash, pruned trees, taught yoga at the YMCA at night, lives in overalls or this blue jumpsuit. He's not a man who rolls up to the Mandalay Bay or the Robert Croming Salon. I love my dad, but he's he's just a mountain man, and
he also
really
sounds
great.
like he's the direct opposite of Robert Croming's.
Oh my gosh, could it be? My dad's great at Dutch oven, does charity work constantly. He's just very down to earth. You can find him in the dirt or hiking. That's my dad, or working on something with his hands. So my dad takes me to get my hair fixed because it was a mandatory fix. This wasn't a treat. So we go to my mandatory color correction. And I was blown away by hairdressers. Just the energy. They wear what they want. They say what they want. They look the way they want. They're all colors, shapes, sizes, expressions. They swear they had blue hair. They had big hair, small hair. And I was just oh my gosh, these are rock stars. I was just blown away and loved it. I was just obsessed. I was these people I want to be around. And my hairdresser found out pretty quickly. I did what everyone does when they sit in a chair. I told them my whole life story. So he learned why I was there, and I was a really troubled kid. And I think he, saw something in me and was kind of mentoring me and talking to me and helping me out. And I just loved it. I was obsessed. I had to go back. My dad was livid about the price and made me pay it off. Fun fact, I had to pay it off by cutting wood. My father is a prepper. He's ready for the end of the world at any time. And we have so much wood in our backyard. I don't know for what. I'm assuming for fires. But I would cut wood as fast as I could to work that shit off and then earn more money. And that's what I did, because he's you're not coming back. That was so expensive. Your ass is grass. You're not coming back. And I was oh, I'm coming back, but I will do whatever you need me to do to come back. But I have to go back. I felt something, and it wasn't the highlight. It wasn't the haircut, right? It wasn't the shampoo. It was what I felt. And now, as a grown up and a hairdresser and a career woman, I look back and I'm what was it about that made me so called and determined to go back at such a young age? And it was that I felt heard, seen, loved, and beautiful. And I didn't feel it at school, at church, at home, in all therapy, none of these places. And I felt it in a freaking hairdresser's chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I earned the money. I came back. I put the cash 6 months later on the station and was what can I get for this much? And he's laughing and he's where you been? What's going on? And I was what can you do for this much? And he's I'm going to go talk to your dad in overalls. And so he goes and talks to him, and they come back and they're we're going to make you a deal. I'm going to do your hair complimentary today. You're going to bring me back a report card, and it's going to have better grades on it. And if you promise to do that, we'll handshake on it. I will do your hair, and that's what we'll do. And I absolutely was deal.
Yeah.
Deal. And that act of kindness completely changed the trajectory of my life. And that man did that for me until I was 16 years old.
Wow.
And then I became his assistant at 16.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So 16, fun fact. I came back with no report card because I dropped out of high school. And he had stopped working for Robert Cromines, and his manager, Kelly Cardenas, had opened his own salon. And I was going to their salon, and they knew me very well. And I came in and said, I don't have a report card today. And they said, what about a job? And I became an assistant. And that's how my career started.
That's wild, but there's so many times that I think that hairdressers do things like that and they never get recognition for it. I think that, there is the side of business that it is about, let's face it, no matter how you put it, it's, you can't put butter on the table by giving stuff away, but you can change somebody's life who can add to society for that. And I take my hat off to that person, because I think that a lot of people have done it, but that's that whole, I think, antithesis of or that whole feeling of pay it forward. He did that, and look at what you're doing now. I think it's just absolutely phenomenal, and I'm actually just blown away by somebody would do that. He did your hair for what? For 4 years. Wanted just
Isn't that crazy?
all he wanted you to do was just be better at what you did. The reality was, though, I think you were a bit like me. I never went through that extreme, but I hated school, and but I knew that, and quite frankly, I just thought I was stupid. That's all I thought. Because I couldn't connect with a teacher or anything. All it was for me is I just knew that I couldn't connect with them. They weren't teaching to me like I needed to be taught to, and my grades reflected it. And therefore I just thought, well, I must be just a dumb person. And I think part of that came out, and the result of that was me, as I saw myself as lower than other people intellectually. So I never participated. And then I was just that shy kid on the block. And it wasn't until many years later, even into my adulthood, that all I found out, and it wasn't until I got hooked on education that I found out that it was that the way that teacher can connect with you. And quite frankly, I can't blow them all away, because Mr. Soretsky was one of my teachers, and he was the one that he taught history, which I hated. But he told stories, and he told it in a way that I could understand it. And I didn't get really good grades, but it was a little bit better than I had got from other teachers. And I always take my hat off to him just from that connection. But that's one thing I learned about when I watch you teach and I watch other educators teach, is that it's about the connection that we make. It's not about the words we say. And I think that makes all the difference in the world. So congratulations to you and to him. I just take my hat off to that. In the and this, I'm going to go. It's funny. I don't like to start off normally so heavy, but in the documentary, and again, for those people that just listening now or just tuning in right now, Hairstylists Change the World. You talked about hairdressers' pain point, and that we're so busy taking care of ourselves that of others, that we don't take care of ourselves. Can you just explain a little bit about that, and how you talked about that, how that affected you?
Yeah. So that has taken over my life in such a beautiful way. And what's actually interesting about the documentary is I actually, in 2019, got really sick, and we had started filming the documentary in 2018, and we filmed over the span of 4 years. And I actually went through a massive healing journey during that movie, which was not planned and not the point of the movie, but it's really beautiful because it has actually captured the essence of well-being, transformation, self-care, healing, like on accident. Like it's just like a divine, beautiful thing. And when I started, and this will all lead there, when I started in the hair industry, when I opened my first studio after working for the company I worked for, and I was a beauty school teacher at Paul Mitchell, and I relate to what you said a lot about feeling stupid. I wasn't until I went to hair school when I was 16 that I was like, oh, I'm not stupid. I learned about learning
Yeah.
styles and was like,
Yeah.
thank God I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
I'm just body kinesthetic, or I
Yeah.
consume information differently. But anyways, after later I opened my first studio, I remember anchoring in like to my own like self and mission. I was like, you will be successful, Elizabeth. You will get the clients you need in your chair and they will stay if you will make them feel the way that Brandon made you feel in the chair.
Yeah.
If you're getting better at hair every day, but it's okay that you're not the best at highlighting, you're not the fastest, just, make people feel heard, seen, and loved. And it was truly my mantra for years. And I had a bunch of clients I got through Groupons, and I built it and I made everyone feel heard, seen, and loved. And I just knew if I could do that, I would be successful. And that was true for me. And for years, I would teach color classes. I was a beauty school teacher, and then I taught color classes, and I would share that, hey, you change the world. And the reason it's important to be really good at what you do is so you can do the part that matters most. When you're
Mhm.
really proficient at your job and you're in your artistic, expression, and you know what to do, you get to do the human part, the connection part. And then when I got into business coaching, I would share the same message and I would say, hey, you change the world and this is how. And this is why it matters that you make a lot of money and you run your business well and you're great at what you do, because then you get to really do the thing that matters most, which is making people feel heard, seen, and loved. And, I grew in this industry and had a lot of success. I had a lot of mentors, a lot of overcoming, a lot of putting myself out there and trying things and really, being bold in my career. And I built a very successful chair business, worked for multiple salons, beauty school teacher, educator, all the things very successfully, and with failures, of course, sprinkled along. But I hit a point where I learned if I'm not well, I can't be of service for other
Yeah.
people. And I think that we're in an industry that no one, and this goes for all beauty pros, all wellness pros, all educators, all coaches, people, teaching, like you're holding this really special space for someone and you're in service. And what you do is so much more than the highlight. And you know
Yeah.
that what you do
Yeah.
is so much more than the workshop or the barber, right? You're barbering. It's more than that. And when you are serving from a depletion, a lack thereof, it catches up with you. It
Yeah.
really, really does. And in our industry, we are not, it's not normalized, all these self-care practices and how to pour into ourselves first. Like it is the first priority. It's like kind of an afterthought. It's kind
Yeah.
of squeezed in. It's like hustle, grow, do this, then you'll make time for that. And, I think our world in general, 2020 woke us up to our relationship with productivity and hustle and giving, giving, giving. And for me, I got really sick in 2019 and it woke me up to how important health and well-being is and how I can't serve anyone if I don't serve myself. And it has so much so put me on a path of, I actually went to school starting in 2020 for trauma informed work, certifications, breath work. Like I have a whole list, NLP, hypnosis, all of these things that help with well-being and health. And I brought it into my work in the hair industry where I teach at hair shows and schools, giving people tools to care for their mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health, because that is what is going to create a sustainable career for you.
Yeah.
That is what is going to create something that's scalable. And if you don't have your health mentally, emotionally, physically, it's going to be your glass ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And just for, there's so many, I mean, if you talk to people, everybody knows what a life coach is, business coach, all of those things. But even when I heard that you are, it's a trauma. How do you phrase that? It's that. Uh, what's the word I'm looking? A trauma informed.
Trauma informed.
Formed. Give us a little bit more. What does that mean?
Yeah. So when you're trauma informed, there's different certifications, schools where they teach you understanding trauma awareness of how the nervous system works, how humans. So even when I work with facilitators, that's what I'm helping them with, is trauma awareness, where it's like, hey, someone's reaction to you is coming from fight, flight, freeze, fawn. This is what's
Yeah.
happening in the brain. This is what's happening in the mind. This is how language impacts that. This is how tonality and breath and all of these things impact our human experience.
Right.
And, being around people constantly, your social nervous system is impacted 100%. It has an impact. And if you are not given tools for discharging that energy, moving that emotional charge through, it wears on you. It can
Right.
cause anxiety, depression, burnout, overwhelm. We have so
Especially
much
now.
science. So
Yeah.
literally, yeah, it's just is what it is. And so having tools to understand the science of that, and regulation tools, and then communication tools, allows us to do the part that we love about our job. We got in this for people and for art. That's
Yeah.
why hairdressers are drawn to this. It's not because they love tinfoil and bleach. They love art. They love humans. They love connection. They want to
Yeah.
make people feel something. And that's the best part of the job. And it can also be the hardest fucking part of the job. And with the right tools, the best part of the job gets to stay the best part of the job. And when I went through, and I'm literally in my 4th year of school with this, training, I was given all these tools to protect myself when I'm working with
Oh, got
people.
it.
And I thought, wow, hairdressers should be taught this. And
Yeah.
that's when I started teaching this in schools, in my programs, at hair shows, for simple, easy tools that we can take care of ourselves.
And just so I just want to take this one step further. So when you're talking trauma, I think, well, first of all, there's the trauma that we can get that's physical, but there's also the trauma mentally. Somebody says, "Oh, you got big ears, you got a big nose, you got whatever," and then we carry. They said that as a passing comment, but we carry that just like a weight for our lives, unless we can help to clear that in some way, shape, or form. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, so trauma by definition is not what happened to you, it's what stays with you. So trauma is like the product of it. So like, yeah, exactly. You were whatever the incident was, right? If someone said, you sing dumb, you talk dumb, I don't like
Yeah.
your voice as a little kid. That was the thing that happened. What the trauma is maybe the rest of your life. I'm afraid to be heard. I'm afraid to be seen. So you don't have boundaries
Yeah.
with your clients. So you
Right.
people please. So you overgive. You know what I mean? And that's a whole like going a little deeper, but there's simple tools that we can just use for nervous system regulation, where in hair shows I don't get into like limiting beliefs and trauma and story like I do maybe at a retreat or something, but
Right.
I do give them tools for their breath, for their presence, for their regulation, where they can move energy through because they're in so much energy all the time. So when we
Yeah.
understand the science of, hey, you might feel tired because your nervous system is impacted and this is what's happening scientifically, here's some really easy tools that you could use every day working with this many people. And therapists do this all the time. Coaches do. Why the fuck are not service-based providers who are holding such sacred space having any tools to protect themselves? And literally, this is where this got really real for me. Was I had been teaching thousands of people these tools in the beauty industry to help them improve their business and how they feel. My whole motto is, when you feel good, you do good. Instead of,
Yeah.
when I do enough, I'll finally feel
Yeah.
good, right?
Yeah.
When I get enough things, I'll finally, no, 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 no. When you feel good, you will do good. You will be of the
Right.
highest service in the world. And so I was teaching all these people, and when the documentary got premiered and the TED got premiered, I heard thousands of people who are not in the industry echoing, my hairdresser's like my therapist, my hairdresser's like my therapist, my hairdresser's like my therapist. And I thought, holy shit, and no one gives them any tools to protect their own mental, emotional, physical,
Yeah.
energetic energy. We could change this as an industry forever. We could be given tools from the ground up instead of in the middle where I'm helping thousands forever. And
Yeah.
that's a big, big, big part of my mission that we do.
I it's funny how everything that happens, I don't think it happens for a purpose. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we were just rehashing. Well, this person from a long time ago, this person from a long time ago. And I don't know if you remember or heard of Dr. Lula Sansi. He worked with Paul
No, tell
Mitchell.
me.
He was Paul. He was a psychologist, and he was working with Paul Mitchell. And I have to say, this was in the '80s. And the story that always struck me was he told this story of how a woman came to him and said that she was having whatever, and I don't remember whether it was a relationship problem with her husband or what it was. So he, as the psychologist, gave her all this advice, and um, then she came back to the following visit and said, "Well, did you do what I told you to do?" And he said, "No." She said, "No." And she said, "Why?" It was, "Well, because I talked to my hairdresser, and my hairdresser said not to do that." And that's why that's why he got involved with the hairdressing industry. And they said, if a hairdresser has that much power to be able to help to change somebody's life in that way by giving them advice, just social advice, have no degree on it. Now, I'm going to leave out the
Yeah.
side whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, but just that he wanted to get involved in our industry and was involved in it for years, helping hairdressers understand more about the psychology of people simply because of that one incident. Didn't that blow your mind?
Oh, wow. Yes, and I love that because that is the thing is we have so much influence, like you said, is it good, bad, or sideways? That depends on the person. So when we can be well and wealthy and come from a centered place, it's like we really get to have a lot of beautiful impact as artists and leaders in our community.
Yeah. Well, I want to throw something else at you because this is probably a question that I've been querying for years. I've been asking people about it. And it's not a new question. But it plagues our industry. And it's that thing of, you did a documentary and Hairdresser Changed the World, and we tell it all the time. Stylists or the clients come and say, "You changed my life when you did X, Y, and Z," and yet we have this feeling, and maybe it's because some other people in our industry or other industries think of our industry as a second-rate profession, which it is not. I always say I'd like to compare my tax reform with yours. If you think that your information yours is better than mine, and it's not about dollars, but it is about that's what they're putting it to. Why do you think
Yeah.
that so many hairdressers buy into that? Why do you think that happens? That we can talk to them all they want, and yet we still don't see ourselves as powerful, as impactful in other people's lives as that we know that they can be.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I share this message, I get to hear what people think, right? Like, do they agree? Especially, I've had the video, it's gone viral. I've had reels gone viral with it. And there are some people who are like, I don't change the world. More so, people are like, yeah, I never thought about the way I do that, or I do that. But I think collectively, you got your barbers, your hairstylists, your nail techs, your tattoo artists, your massage therapists, all of these kind of trades. And I think a lot of us got into trades as an alternative to traditional education and a traditional career path that
Yeah.
we're literally, if you look at the school system, we're groomed to be an employee. We're groomed to say yes. We're groomed to be a 9 to 5. We're groomed to do this. And we were drawn to this for some alternative out of the box reason, whether that be income, your family couldn't afford school, it's artistic, it seems easier, you are interested in an alternative way of doing things. And so I think by category, a lot of us maybe were underdogs and are underdogs because we went a non-traditional route in society.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
Mm-hmm.
in the last even 10 years, entrepreneurship and artists, we've grown a lot, not even just our industry is that is an option. Parents aren't you have to go to college, like the parents my age raising kids, but our parents were more like that. So I think society has really collectively positioned certain career paths above others. And I think when you start with a story and you go in, you have to change a whole system and a
Yeah.
narrative, not only of the people attending, but the collective. And that's why I work with corporate, I work with schools, and I get the mission outside our industry because there's so much work to do to change a story. And it really will take a whole new generation of us coming through. But the work you're doing, the work that I'm doing in the middle, and then our new baby stylist coming up, if
Yes.
we can really feed and empower them it's going to get better with each generation. So I think the story will die. I also think we've been under-resourced as an industry with financial literacy, business literacy, well-being, self-care information. And we've seen in the last decade that become more mainstream, where it was maybe living in hubs of Redkin or different schools, networks, but it wasn't super mainstream and accessible. And due to social media and influencers and brands and lots of people, it's more mainstream. Mindfulness is, business literacy is, there's so much information now, maybe too much. So I think the accessibility of becoming more like a CEO and shifting that is accessible where it really wasn't. We were really in a model of like, you were in a mom and pop salon or you were in a high-end commission, and this was the only way to be successful. And then there was platform artists or beauty school teachers. And it's really, the rules have been changed. There's like a million ways to do everything now.
Yeah. It's so funny because you talked about just a little bit ago, you used the word genius. And I was at a conference just this last weekend. And he was talking about how there was a study that was done. And I hate it when people say there was a study that done, but they can't tell you the name of what the study was so that you can go back and research it yourself. But I'm repeating what I heard from this other person, and I thought it was just brilliant because this is the way it amounts back to what you and I felt like when we were in school. They said that they wanted to talk about IQ, and they wanted to talk about not so much about IQ, but what you had to be considered a genius, creative, etc. And they said that when they did this study asking these kids certain questions that they could tell whether they had to think about it creatively, and that sort of tuned into where it fit in the parameters of a genius. I don't say I'm not a genius. I just say I don't know the studies and I don't know the questions you would ask. However, what stuck out to me, just like a big sore hand, I used to say thumb, but I got this as an example now, is that he said that when they tested kids that were 4 to 5 years old before they went to school, all of them graded, and I'm not going to use the right number. I'm sure you can go out and research it, etc. That 90% of these kids, they were qualified as geniuses. When they got into school, and they got into it a number of years, they tested a similar amount of kids, and their genius rating went down to about 40%. And again, my numbers are off. I haven't got it set up right, but proportionately it's there.
Yeah.
They tested adults. What do you think that the percentage was of geniuses when they measured the adults? 2%.
So little. What was it?
2%. Yeah. 2%. Now think about it. It's the same kids, but the only thing that happened, you see, our schooling came from the industrial age when, like you said, they were just made to make employees. They wanted line workers, etc. And they took all the creativity away from everything, all the arts away from everything, and consequently robbed so many people of their creative genius that they have. Every kid has it out there. Mm-hmm. And if we could only learn. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from the teachers that are out there. The teachers are phenomenal. But the way that the system is set up, it just takes the creativity.
System,
It's the system that takes the creativity away from us. And I think, that's got to change. I think that's why things like Montessori and those kind of places that just say, what do you want to do today? I want to play with my trucks in the sandbox. Okay, how many trucks do you have? How much sand is there? If you put this much sand in, how much? And they do it in real life situations. And I think that probably, I'm not going to speak for you, but I will speak for me. I love to draw. I was good at drawing before I went into school, and even while I was in school. But I just felt stupid about everything else. And maybe it's just that's my escape story to to say why I felt that way. But I thought that was just absolutely phenomenal. So,
no, I agree with that. Yeah. That is cool. Well, and it's like, right, all the programming starts and all the how it's supposed to be. And it really does like squish our creativity, and that is our genius. I mean, that's
Mhm.
why I really think our career path is one of the most abundant careers that there can be, because the amount of human connection and artistry available to us through this is so cool and can be so healthy and alive and like such a beautiful career. And with the right tools of craft and business and well-being, like you can have such a rich, wealthy, beautiful, fully expressed career and switch lanes in our industry. Like there
Yes.
really is so much, like it's cool.
Yeah. This episode is sponsored by the Salon Associate Accelerator from trainersplaybook.com. Are you struggling with the time and cost of associate training? Do you feel like your salon is running you? We'll get your associates on the floor, all with 90% less time from you, so you can get back to building your business. Get them world-class design, finishing, color, and client care skills they'll use every day for the rest of their career, while you focus on realizing your vision. Go to trainersplaybook.com and get the Salon Associate Accelerator. And now, back to the show. So it's just like that. And when I have to say this about when you're a hair love retreat, and I had heard about it before, but didn't really understand what it was about. And when I watched the documentary, what really hit me hard was you don't do retreats like other where it's just okay, let's find a hotel room somewhere. We're going to do a little get together.
No.
You went to tent sit. You made your own tents. You had people coming up. I'm not just they were teepees, right? But you had them all lit up on the inside, and you had your flag that you hoisted up in there. And like, where I want to know where the concept came from, how you felt about it, what was it like, even with the concept to start it. What did you do just to go? Oh my God, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to take it, 180 degrees. How did that work for you?
Yeah. So that came from my dad. So before I did Hair Love, I was a beauty school teacher for years. Before that, I worked with Kelly Cardenas. So I was in education literally from the ground up. Then I was a beauty school teacher for 4 years while I worked for Lunatic Fringe and trained assistants. So
I
education
didn't
was
know you
like
worked
my
for
life.
Lunatic Fringe.
Yep.
Get out of here.
I was the lead. Yeah, I was the lead stylist in St. George for years.
I love those guys and girls.
Yeah, yes, it was great. And so I trained all their assistants. That's when I started like realizing I was such a curriculum builder, as I was like, we need an assistant program, and I started writing it and all of that then. So that was, my education was there, and I was in Paul Mitchell world for a long time. And then I went independent with my education when I had my son, and I did workshops for 4 years. And so I was the person who started paintbrushing hair before anybody was paintbrushing hair. And I did about 2 workshops a month for years. And I was a single mama at the time. So I built this community of a lot of hairdressers around the world. I'd be in Oklahoma, then New York, like wherever. And it just started small. A school, because I had connections. They'd be like, oh, our school wants a little class. Cool. And they'd be like, oh, the salon down the street wants one. And they were just small, like 10 to 30 people classes.
Yeah.
And I did that for 4 years, and that built our community base of what we have now. That's actually how Redken found me, as I was teaching Shades EQ, and they were like, who is this girl teaching so much Shades EQ? And I just was no longer affiliated with the brand. I just taught what I loved. And I had an offer from another brand that wanted me to be an ambassador when that was just starting. And they said, but you can't use Shades EQ. And I said, I can't do it. So I had been doing free stuff with Redken. They'd invite me to random things, and I sent them what I wanted to do for them. And I wrote a deck and pitched the first ambassador program, and I was the first
Good for
ambassador. That's how that
you.
started. So
Wow.
that's how they started the ambassador program. So
Yeah.
I just pitched it, was like, this is what I want to do for you. This is what I'm doing. And they were like, perfect, let's do it. And then Haley and Aditi ran with that and built the whole program. But so I was teaching these workshops, and Hair Love was really inspired by my dad. So growing up, my family's Mormon, but we grew up like in the hood, Vegas Mormon, where our church wasn't like a rich white Utah fancy, like Keeping Up with the Joneses. It was like people off the streets who needed food and their kids were not okay. Like it was like church where people needed help, and the Mormon church is really good about offering help. So my dad was always in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, bishopric, and he dealt with a lot of troubled teens, including his own, me. And he would lead these hikes, and him and my grandpa would host these rendezvous where they would set up our families teepees. They'd build them at our elementary schools, and they teach people how to gather, what a rendezvous is, and come together, and they do the whole experience, and they would Dutch oven. And then sometimes they'd take people, my dad on the weekends, we'd go hiking with the youth groups, and he would teach me about the nature and Pachamama and herbs and connecting. And it was one of the only places I found God or the divine or higher power or peace, whatever you want to call it, something bigger than me. And so I felt really connected to those experiences. And they would have these rendezvous in Vegas out in the Red Rocks where people would trade goods. So when you go to a rendezvous, furs, beads, candy, whatever, and you go in and you trade, and then you say good trade. And that was what Hair Love was built on, is I wanted to gather people together around good trade, where we would trade education, we would trade love, we would trade what we know, and we would escape to learn. And that's the concept of one of our like values in our company, is get out of your environment and come into an environment that has an education set up literally for you to connect, grow, expand. And when you are in something for not just an hour, not just for a day, but you are literally off grid somewhere else for 5 days, you're in a different frequency, a different way of being, a different mindset. For that many days, it anchors in a new reality. And that's why everyone's like so different when they go home, is it wasn't just, I'm excited, I listened to one motivational Tony Robbins talk, right? Tony Robbins events are days and days and days. That's on purpose. It's to like really help you step into a new reality. So we wanted to create an education portal for that. And it was based on my dad and what I learned. And that's why we have the yoga and the hiking with the business, with the hair. It's a whole holistic experience, because we're holistic. We're not just hair. We're not just a mom, a dad, a salon owner. We're like all of these roles we play. And so we look at the whole picture of what success is.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And you, what in your venues, like it's not a TP every time, right? You have all different. I think I saw. Didn't I see
we
something?
Bring my families. Yeah, we bring my families. Like that's part of the workshop. We have a workshop where we learn about coming together and the strength of the poles and unity and how that plays in your team and your business. But we've glamped, we've stayed in houses, cabins, all sorts of off grid. But it's important that it's an environment that has a set and setting that can hold what Hair Love holds,
Yeah. Yeah. I was, when I watched the things that you had been doing on there, and I just thought, did I see something about camels? Was there something on about camels?
We did go to Morocco.
I was going to say,
I do international experiences.
you hesitated for a second. I went, "Oh my God, did I just screw up there? Was I having a mind meld or something?" But you went to Morocco, because I thought I saw you. You went, wasn't it something I saw you guys traipsing about with these camels, etc. And I just went, "Oh my God, you guys go everywhere there. It's not just a local thing." And I saw the same people over and over at all of your events. So you do have what you'd call a true community, correct?
Oh yeah, our community is like insane. They blow me away. Like it's literally what has rippled from that community is like businesses, collaborations, micro communities. Like I see little Hair Love like echoes like through thousands of businesses. It's cool.
Do you when you're there, do you see, like I've heard this from one of my teachers said that, there's three main responsibilities that you have. One is to yourself, one is to your coach or your mentor, and the other one is to your community. And he said that the strongest accountability factor is to community. He said you can blow off the one that you have for yourself. You can maybe disappoint your teacher, but people are more than likely never want to they never want to disappoint the community. So that's the highest level of accountability that you have. So, and you see, I think you see that everywhere when people get together as a group. And let's face it, we're all, and I say animals. I don't mean a bad way, but we're all animals in
Yeah,
the
we are.
in the pecking order of life. And so we have to pack. We have to have a community that have like minds, etc. And I saw that running
Yep.
through where your people just everybody laughing, crying, have a good time, and because I think would you find that it does that having that together, does that help to open up people so they're willing to say and things that they would never say in front of a stranger?
Yeah, I mean, even like when Sam Villa came and taught at Hair Lab, people teach different at Hair Lab. And you know this, you're a facilitator. The setting is everything. When you hold a container as a teacher or even as a company, like when we own a salon and we're setting, that's a container that we're holding a standard of our values, the energy,
Yep.
how we interact, how we don't interact here. And I think very intentional, like what we've like we set up a setting on purpose for a certain way. And yeah, people are showing up differently in this container because it's set up to be that type of container that can hold, that depth, that vulnerability, that masterminding, that that real camaraderie and community,
Yeah.
that isn't performative, that isn't what can I get from you. I really am inspired by a lot of what Burning Man does, and I will bring values from other spaces I see where I'm like, what can you bring? This is an energetic
Yeah.
potluck, and where are you showing up? Like everyone affects the energy. Like I don't do fucking negative Nancy's or what can I get from you energy. Like that Hair Love doesn't fuck like that. Like
Yeah.
this is a high level community, and we call people to that attunement and that caliber. And that starts with the leadership. That starts with how you lead your container, and people can attune to that because that's a value of how you play in the sandbox. And so, yeah, people show up differently because it's set up to be safe to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to listen. There's so much I wanted to chat about, and I know we're going to have to do another one here. But I want to know first off is what pushes you. What pushes you in this game? Like, what do you do? What do you do that makes you say, "Look, I'm going to shift. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to fall back and punt." Whatever the current expression is that we have for change.
I love that. I sat a lot with this during 2020, and I think everyone did. I really was like, do I want to do what I'm doing anymore? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Who am I doing it for? Is this good for me? Like, should I quit? Like, I really, and now I allow myself to like have those moments of like, I let myself question, right? And that's been really powerful for me because it brings me back into a purpose. And I see our mission as what we're doing, but our purpose is like calling. It's like
Yep.
that thing that you're saying, like that inner thing that moves you forward. And for me, I get so much out of watching people remember their own power. Like when I watch people step into that, like that lights something up in me and makes me feel like I'm doing something that's worth being, around for and working for and doing that. And so if my real mission is, and we've done a pretty good job, but I'm young and have some more work to do. I want the industry to be completely different than I left it. And I want the standard of not just business literacy, but like well-being of the hairdresser to be something that, like we're not burned out.
Yeah.
We're none of that. And like, so much of us are women and moms. Like I'm a mom. Like we should have this opportunity to have these full lives that when we feel good, we do good. When we feel good, we do good. And so for me, to be the embodiment of that and to show other people, like I almost see it like I've paved and pioneered a pathway. Like now you don't have to walk alone. Now someone can help show you, guide you, add to what you know. And it's like we can really change the standard of what it looks like to be successful and define that for ourselves. And so that purpose, so like when people remember their power and they step into that and they're able to have like ease and flow and health and vitality, I'm like, yes, more of
Yeah.
that. When we feel
Yeah.
good, we do good. More heart-centered leadership. Like we can lead with our feelings. We can lead with our heart. We can
Yeah.
lead with our vitality. We can lead with ease. And I think that that's a beautiful message for the people who are in places of power to be speaking and showing and teaching and guiding.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff. Was there any, like, I mean, we went through all of this, and I think that they see you on stage, they see you at the retreat, but they don't hear some of the crap that we had to climb through. Was along the way, was there difficult times? Was there things that just got in the way and impeded you, something you had to work through? What was that?
Yeah, I mean, from high school dropout to my divorce and single mom to all the pivots. Every time you pivot in your career, there's like that opportunity for like an identity process and a death and rebirth, from beauty school teacher to salon owner to educator to starting companies to, I mean, we all went through 2020 together. You know, I had a personal health crisis that was insane, and a story you can find on my podcast that was really hard in 2019, where my partner, who's now my husband, was suicidal. That's how we got into breath work. It's a whole crazy story that pivoted our whole company. And yeah, you know, and I love this Buddha quote where he says, pain is inevitable, but the struggle is optional. And so
Yeah.
it's like
Yes.
painful shit's going to happen in life, but the struggle's what we do with the pain. So when we can see things as sacred opportunities for transformations, for opportunities for our evolution, our growth, and we can trust and have faith in, you know, that this will lead us to our next thing and our next evolution of self, we take the hard things and we make them part of what fortifies us. And it's like, I think of the seasons. We have seasons of life. We're going to go through them all the time. I mean, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a human. Of course, I go through shit like everybody else. But what is promised after winter? Spring.
Yeah.
So, like, honor your winters. Let yourself be reborn. Let new ideas come through. And I think for me, that's where the ease has come in, is not when I judge my falls and winters and I just go, okay, what needs to be shed, just like the leaves? What needs to die off in winter? The roots get stronger in the tree and it fortifies. New life's coming. Chill. It's winter.
Yeah.
Just chill.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just if you don't have that struggle, that problem, that thing that happened, the crap that arose with your family or with a business or something failed, then if you can't overcome that, that's the whole point, is what are you doing? That's what I think the universe throws at you, so that you learn from that and then you get bigger, you get stronger from that. And each time you do it, if you just look at it, they don't always feel good. And I think when every time that you hear somebody talking to us, people listening and watching right now are going, oh yeah, that's easy for you, but it's not for me. It's not easy for us either. You know, we go through that shit the same way. It's not any easier to go through it. But if you go through it knowing that there is a light, if I'm going to use these, worn out metaphors at the end of the tunnel, that they're there, you're going to learn from it. You're going to get better. Sometimes it's even better on the other side than it was when you had what you thought was the problem. So good on you for that one. I'm going to throw you. I have 1,000 more questions, so we're going to have to do this again. But I want to throw. I've got these are always just rapid fire questions that I want to throw out at you. So let's just go away on this one. What turns you on in the creative process?
Ooh, I love this. So flow state for me is like one of my favorite things to draw. Like, I love my creative expression. Breath work helps me drop into my body and be creative, even like 3-5 minutes of it. Dancing and singing, and there's science behind all these things, also drop you into your body. So they take you, one of the concepts we teach in our certification, we call it mind to magic. So dropping out of mind into your body where the magic is. That's where your creative essence is birthed and born. So anything like breath, singing, and movement will drop you in. And I have like my music back there. So I love that. It's easy, it's fun, it's free, it's with me all the time. That is what like gets me like fired up.
Love it. And what stifles creativity for you?
Busyness. So when we are in a stress state in our nervous system, we actually have less access to creativity, logic, reason, power. You just, all of your juice inside your body is being sent to keep you in that stress state. So anything you can do to regulate back down actually opens you back up to creativity. So creativity is in the void. That's the void. It's the white space. So if you feel stuck, you don't have clarity, you have writer's block on what to do, you need white space, and you need like to bring yourself into, there needs to be like that void.
Yeah, our indigenous people used to call it that quiet mind. That if you wanted to come up with a thought, don't think. Don't think, and then let other things from nature, or even if you're not in nature, a billboard or whatever, let that come to you, and it'll give you the thought as long as you just put it in the back of your brain, and you don't want it immediately. I love that. A thing in life in general that you dislike the most.
Dishes. I hate dishes.
I love that. That's one of the better ones that have come out of that one. And in life, what do you love the most?
Oh man, travel. I love travel.
And most difficult time in your life?
The 2019 health crisis. That rocked my fucking world.
Yeah, and a lot of people too. Proudest moment in your life?
This year, I got married to the love of my life. I've been through a divorce, so it's a whole, my son's doing well. My message in my TED Talk went viral, my movie. Like, I just feel like 14 years worth of work is like manifesting into what probably looks like an overnight success. And it just feels like I could just cry and be like, wow, it's working and it's beautiful and it's impacting tens of thousands. And it's so cool.
Yeah. A living person that you admire the most?
Oh, so many people. Oh, the most. I have so many mentors, but I really admire my dad.
Yeah, I heard that all along. A person that you wish you could meet, living or dead?
Ooh. I would love to meet Abraham Hicks or Joe Dispenza, which I could meet either of them. You can go to their events, but that would be cool.
Well, I know that I always say that both of those people we're like this with me, except this is me. And for those of you just listening, I'm got my fingers crossed and I'm just waving my thumb. That's me. Yeah, and you know what they say, when you tell a joke and nobody laughs, it's a story. So moving right along.
So good.
Something that people don't know about you.
Oh man, probably how silly I am. Like, if you come to my retreat, but I'm like really goofy and cuddly. I like cuddle my clients at retreats and stuff.
Love it. Love it. Okay, you had a month off, where would you go? What would you do?
Ooh, well, I did that this summer. I went to Europe and Greece. I mean, I could go back to Europe. I'm doing it. We're going to Egypt next year for almost a month. So.
Oh, wow. Is that going to be part of the, are you going to do a retreat there, or?
Maybe one day. This one's for us. We're doing a pilgrimage, like a spiritual. We're going to go meditate and explore and do all our weird shit.
What's your greatest fear?
Oh, that is a good one. I've had so many greatest fears. I think what I've been working through, and a lot of it is, I'm kind of on the tail end of this one, right? We have different ones, is the softening and the, really stepping into just like the ease in my life. I have like 30% of me that's still afraid that things will crumble if I do it. But it used to be like 100% of me felt that way, and I'm easing, and I just noticed it. I'm like, oh, I thought I got over that. And it came up for me again. I was like, oh, I still have some old stories with that as I soften and release and, step more into flow. And I have a little part of me that's like that old wounded hustler deep down, and she still needs some love. And I think as I prove to myself that it's possible to be soft and successful and safe, that will go away. But that's currently one of my big fears.
Oh, good on you. Favorite curse word?
Fuck.
She says with vigor. Your favorite comfort food?
Ooh, I love sushi.
Oh. No, go ahead. Oh, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
That I'm not such a night owl. That's hard for me.
Ooh. Yeah, we can't be friends. I can't stay up past 9. It's just.
I want to be like you.
What's your most treasured possession? Physical.
Physical. I'm really connected to some of my instruments and some of my crystals.
Love it. Something in the industry you haven't done but want to.
Ooh, I have one that I can't say on a podcast because it's happening, but it's what I want to do the most. But
Does it start with B?
oh, what is B?
Double O and a K? I heard
Book?
Inklings. Yeah.
Book? Oh, my book comes out next year. That is coming out. That's happening. I think something that I haven't done. Oh, I can't say the one. I'll say this.
You can't give us a sneak
This
peek
is
there?
it. I can't, but I'll tell you one that's kind of kitty corner to it. I would love to bring more of these mindfulness tools into the corporate areas. And I have done some of this, like with Biolage and some other companies, but into the facilitators. I think
Yeah.
a lot of this could empower. They're impacting people like a ripple effect. And I know what I could share with them would impact a lot of lives. So that's an area I would like to do more of.
Well, maybe you and I could work together on something like that because I think that's brilliant. If you had a do-over in your life, and most people will say, well, everything that I've had always made me who I am, but if you had a do-over, what would that be?
It would be my relation. I mean, like, yes, of course, right? I wouldn't be who I am without it. Yes, yes, yes. But if I had to redo it, what led to my health crisis was I missed out on a lot of time with my son and got really sick by pushing myself too hard. And although I learned a lot from that, I mean, if I had a do-over, I would take what I know now and I would have seen him more and I would have not taken care of myself for so long.
Yeah, yeah. And tomorrow, you couldn't do hair or anything to do with hair. What would you do?
Breath work.
Oh, wow. Okay, now I've got one last question for you, but before I ask you that, well, I guess this would be the second. That would be the second question then. But if people want to get a hold of you, want to find out about the retreat, want to find about other things, if they hire you or whatever, how can they do that? Where would they go?
I think the easiest place to go is Instagram. My personal is Hey Elizabeth Faye, and Hair Love is Hair Love University. And you can always DM me. We got so much free stuff too. So it's like, even if you can't afford to invest, we have so many free things, or we can connect you to, you have lots of free things too. So go explore because there's lots of free stuff too.
Yeah. Okay. If you had just one wish for our industry, what would that be?
That every single hairdresser knew that the power they have literally changes the world, and they embodied it so much that it was not only important, but they knew it was their responsibility to show up like as the highest version of themselves in their well-being, their business, their craft, like because they know the impact they have.
Yeah.
If you know that, you would show up all the way.
Yeah, and probably feel better about yourself, do better work, and make more money. So
Absolutely.
Elizabeth, I knew you less at the beginning. I know more about you now. I liked you before, and I love you now. So thank you so much for spending time. And I know that your life is busy, and this takes time. And on behalf of the people that are listening and watching, I just want to say thank you so much. And I want to have you back on because I've still got so many more questions that I have to ask.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me on, and we will definitely be collaborating soon.
There we go. Okay, thank you. And everybody else out there, absolutely a pleasure time having Elizabeth on board, and good night to you all.